prosecutor Shan Wu. Shan, what does this tell us about the evidence prosecutors have gathered so far and where they are in this investigation?
It tells us that they've reached an important later stage in the investigation. The fact that the recent news came out that the New York State Attorney General's investigation has now basically joined with the Manhattan DA's investigation tells us that this case has potential criminal legs. You wouldn't be going to this stage if it didn't. The special grand jury, the utility for that is its continuity. You want the same people becoming familiar with the evidence. So this grand jury will sit for a longer period of time, meets more often, and the prosecutors are beginning to put in the evidence and shape a potential foundation for potential charges. They really have to shape it because there's a massive volume of evidence here. They can't just dump the whole thing on the grand jury.
We've heard millions of pages of documents as part of all of this. And as someone yourself who is now a defense attorney, if you find out a special grand jury has been convened, what are you telling your client?
I'm telling the client that you're in great jeopardy at this point, and that's something that Trump's legal team would have to be on high alert for at this point. What's happening right now is, obviously, there's been a lot of work done already. Prosecutors don't just open the grand jury, then start work. In this case, there's already been litigation up to the Supreme Court about the subpoenas. So what's happening now is they're at the shaping stage, and if you're the defense counsel, you want to figure out what that shape is. You want to be trying to talk to the prosecutors and say, hey, what's going on? What are you thinking here? We would perhaps like to be cooperative, but let us know what you're thinking. So you're trying to discern the shape of what's going on here in order to best prepare for what charges might happen.
And of course, grand jury activity is all done behind closed doors. We've learned, though, this grand jury is going to sit for 3 days a week for 6 months. Can you talk to us more about who these jury members could be? Are they selected randomly? What are they going to do each day? Give us some behind the scenes of how this will work.
Sure. The grand jury, as opposed to what they call a trial jury, often called a petite jury, is selected the same way. It's just members of the community, and when you get notice that you're being asked to come to jury duty, it simply is noticed, and they'll tell you is it grand jury or petite jury. As a potential juror, you want the petite jury because it's less time involved. The grand jury is going to meet. Typical one meets on a monthly basis. You're going to stay impaneled for the month. And there's not much vetting for the grand jurors, unlike in a trial where you're used to the lawyers really asking a lot of questions, judges asking questions. There'll be some general questions about generic impartiality, but usually they don't know yet the kinds of cases that they're going to be hearing evidence for. Now, this grand jury will hear other cases as well. You sometimes will get a grand jury which only is doing one case. This one will hear other matters as well. So each day that they report in, they're going to hear different cases and different kinds of evidence, but always the prosecutor will be their guide, so to speak. The prosecutor will talk to them first and tell them what's about to happen.
So if the prosecutor is the guide, it's my understanding that a grand jury can sometimes be used more as an investigative tool, as a way to secure subpoenas and witness testimony. Prosecutors don't always ask a grand jury to indict. What tells you this is about indictments, or that's where it's headed?
It's the momentum on it. The case has been going on, the investigation has been going on for a long time, and it's expanding, not contracting. And sometimes, as you said, prosecutors will use the grand jury just for investigative purposes or even to cover themselves. They decided not to prosecute, but they want to say, hey, we presented all this evidence to the grand jury. But the momentum here is it's getting bigger, and it's taken a long time. And that, to me, indicates that someone or something is probably going to get charged. And the something could be a business entity as opposed to an individual.
Quickly, if you will, Shan, what will you be watching for next?
Be watching for who goes into that grand jury. And even though it's a secret proceeding, the witnesses, as we've seen in numerous other cases, are free to talk about the fact that they've been in there, even what they testified to. So watching for who goes in. Certainly, if we hear that Weisselberg, the CFO, has gone in, very, very significant, probably indicates he has a cooperation deal. Same thing if Michael Cohen goes in. He's indicated he's very enthusiastic. to go in. And of course, very importantly, were we to hear or see any evidence of any of the family members or the children going in, that would tell us a lot.
Shan Wu, I'm sure this conversation continues another day. Thank you, my friend. It's good to see you.
Good to see you.